to today's Chat About Children. The Children's Foundation of Mississippi is delighted to host these chats and learn more about both the needs and opportunities for children across the state. The Children's Foundation believes that for Mississippi to reach its potential, we must make sure that our children reach their potential. And while we recognize that parents and certainly parent and grandparents who have child care responsibilities are their children's first and best teachers, we also recognize that quality early care and education opportunities are also vitally important. So today's Chat About Children will focus on the important role of the PreK collaboratives across Mississippi. Last month, in partnership with the Mississippi Economic Council and the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation, the Children's Foundation co-sponsored a virtual summit on untapped potential economic impact of Mississippi child care. But today's chat is one of the ways that the Children's Foundation is continuing to raise awareness about the important return on investment with quality child care and PreK collaboratives across Mississippi. We are delighted to have Ms. Jennifer Calvert and Dr. Jill Dent as guests on today's Chat About Children. Welcome. Jennifer is the owner and director of ABC Calvert's Preschool and Nursery Incorporated, and she's been in that role for 29 years. She's the lead partner for the Monroe Early Learning PreK Collaborative now for 4 years. Jill is the director of the Mississippi Department of Education's Office of Early Childhood. Welcome to today's program. So Jill, I think we're going to start with you, and you're going to tell us some about the PreK collaboratives in Mississippi.
Great, I'm glad to be here. I'm going to share my screen so y'all can see a presentation that I've created just to kind of guide us through this process. Let me get that started. Okay, can everybody see that okay? Great. So with the Department of Education, we always talk about our vision and mission that we want our children to be successful and be able to succeed in the world. And that's what we strive to do with our education program. So we also have the State Board of Education goals, which I'm thrilled that number 3 outlines our goal for early childhood. The department board created these goals in 2015. So I'm really excited that that was there. That actually happened the same board meeting where I was hired as the director. So that was really cool. So, so with the early learning collaboratives, I wanted to kind of give you some information about how the collaboratives were created and where they came from and all of that good information. So with this information, you know, in 2013, the legislature created funding through the Early Learning Collaborative Act and provided $3 million in funding, state dollars, to be able to provide seats for children in school districts or a Head Start or child care centers. And within that collaborative, what they call a collaborative, they have to have partnerships between a school district and a Head Start entity or a not-for-profit to manage the grant. So throughout that process, you know, schools or not-for-profits or would get together in their communities and organize a plan to apply for the funding. And it was a competitive process. And so the first time it was extremely competitive. And so there's a rating process that these applications go through. And then within this process, there's points assigned to each component. So in our first collaborative cohort, we call them now, we came out with 11 collaboratives, and they were given $3 million throughout those 11, or right about there. And so throughout the years, the legislature increased our funding, which is amazing. And we got another $1 million. And then in 2016, we got $6.5 million. And so through the years, as we've shown the successes of the collaboratives, in which I'm going to talk about next, we've been able to show the legislature how beneficial this is to our little guys in the state. So within that process, we've been able to now we have 18 collaboratives. And so last year, with those 18, we were able to serve over 3,000 children. Now this year, it's a little bit different. Everything's different this year. So the other piece of that, and you can see on this map, all of the different collaboratives, the 18 collaboratives that we have right now in the state. Now, we will have those 18 until we are awarded additional funding to add on new collaboratives. So that's where we are right now. So when we talk about achievements, I talked about that just a little bit ago. You know, one of the pieces, when you have high quality pre-K settings, one of the pieces is, you want to measure what you're doing to make sure that you're successful. So, you can see there the 2019 average end of year score. Now that's the average for 4-year-old children throughout the early learning collaboratives was 575, which is amazing, when the target is 498. And then in the purple bar there, you can see the other funded pre-K programs. And those are programs that are funded through title programs in other title or sometimes locally funded in schools. So those are pre-K programs in schools. So you can see there is a significant difference in points, in the point gain there, even between those two. So what that data is really saying is that 77% of those children that are coming out of those classrooms were ready for pre-K, ready for kindergarten. And, this assessment is measured with literacy and some math. But the other component of this is we look to address and educate the whole child. We don't just look for just literacy, even though literacy is extremely important. So we also use other benchmarks, such as the Brigance screener. And that way we can kind of see where they grow in developmental domains throughout the whole entire year. We do a pre and a post with those children. And we also have that data. And the children also grow very much with, of course, that data, because it's measuring the whole child development. So that's really important. So you can see in this blue chart under the second, number 2 there, you can see how that's kind of gone up throughout the years. And it's just the collaboratives are really getting very good at what they do. The longer they're in it, the better they get. And even though in the beginning they're really good, it's perfection over time. So, we of course have lessons learned, and we modify different methods and change different ways of doing things. And so that's really exciting to be able to see that grow. One of the other components is we also for the Department of Education, we are evaluated through the National Institute for Early Education Research. And that is a, here I'm gonna slip over to this next slide. With this, with our NEAR data, that is a way for us to measure high quality programming for these public school pre-K kids, but that also means any one of our kids in our collaboratives, whether they're in public school or whether in the Head Start or whether they're in childcare, they're getting this level of quality within that program. So as you can see here, in 2019, we were awarded 10 of 10 benchmarks. And so these are new benchmarks, which we had met the benchmarks before, but then they increased them. And so we didn't quite meet it a couple of years, but last year was the first year we were awarded again 10 of 10. And so that's really exciting because there's only 4 states in the nation that are able to do this, and we are one of them. And so I'm really proud of that. I'm really excited about that. Even though our program is small compared to other states, what we're doing right, and it's successful. So that's really exciting. So this is my contact information. If anybody has any questions or wants to email me, they are certainly welcome to do that. And Linda, do you want to talk now? I kind of skipped the tax credit. Do you want to talk about that now or save that for later?
Why don't we talk about that a little later? I want us to go on and introduce Ms. Calvert again. Jennifer Calvert, as we said earlier, is the owner and director of the ABC Calvert's Preschool and Nursery, but she's also been the lead partner for the Monroe Early Learning PreK Collaborative. So when you talk, Jill, about the various 100%, if you will, of the NEAR benchmarks being met. While there's leadership and great leadership from the state level, it's really at the collaboratives that really make this happen. That's really, as we've said in earlier discussions, that's really where the magic happens. And the magic happens with people like Jennifer Calvert, who have the vision, who put the teams of people together and really have the children's interest first and foremost. Absolutely. And we know that she and her center have been recognized by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation in a video presentation that was released in Washington, D.C. at the end of February. We've also promoted that through the Mississippi Economic Council. And for our viewers today, for the Chats About Children, we'd like to go ahead and preview that video today. So you will hear and see individuals at the community level who have been able to really support in a very significant way the pre-K collaboratives. And Jill, that is through the tax credit. Mm-hmm. So we'll take a minute for the video.
Loaded. My name is Pat Hidalgo. My husband and I own Amory Animal Hospital in Amory, Mississippi. Amory is a very family-friendly town. Both of our children were raised here. We love Amory. We like being able to help. We heard about the pre-K tax credit, and we love the idea of helping the young children. We have to pay taxes anyway. I like knowing that it's going somewhere that will help the kids locally.
Which one of these gardens produced things that people could smell? The flower garden.
With the money that comes in from the tax credit, it is enough for us to do what we're supposed to do. If we didn't have the tax credit, we would have a problem.
It matters a lot. I don't know any parent who wouldn't want their child to learn to the best of their ability. It's like a ton of pounds off your back. Just to know that your kid loves her teacher, loves her school, loves her classmates. It's a relief.
We've had parents who say that I want my child here in this classroom, but I just can't afford it. The PreK tax credit is a way for us to continue providing those kids with high-end quality early childhood education.
I see a cat. I see a stethoscope. What are you? A veterinarian. You're an animal doctor.
Somebody's doctor was in my classroom once upon a time. The architects that built this building had to be in someone's classroom, and I'm teaching one of them.
Everything I hear, if they're behind at third grade, they never catch up. So if they can get started at a level playing field with all the other kids, they're setting themselves up for success for the rest of their life. And if we can help them get started, you know, who loses? Nobody loses. We're all winners there. You know, not all the kids are going to stay in our community, but there's some of them are, and we want them to be the brightest and the best
that they can be.
Yeah.
Yes.
Brightest and the best, that's correct.
I have 16 fantastically gifted children who are going to rock this world. And if I could give all their names, I would. But keep your eyes open because they are going to hit the world and do great things.
So Jennifer, when you see that video, what are some of the things that come to your mind, and how has the work of the PreK Collaborative been able to engage community partners?
Good morning. The community works well with us as far as supporting us. If we need anything, as when we're doing activities or we have a lesson plan that's built around a certain, like community helpers. We have the police department, the fire department. Everyone is willing to come in and talk with our children so that this can be presented to them in real life experience. We're talking about it, you know, through the books and the different books that we have. We use the curriculum out, and it brings community helpers out real well. So we have that part that they take part in when we ask for support. If we're doing an experiment on something, like if we're experimenting pumpkins, we have the local community that will support us in donating pumpkins to our classroom. Parents are willing to donate whenever we ask for anything on, you know, we need something. They are there also to support us. We do get tax credit from the community that helps support with different things that we need or we need to do within our collab. We had a great success last year with the support from the, we was able to take our children to like the Buffalo Park, and that was used with tax credit. So that was good community support.
So that was something extra that would not have happened with children in the community had there not been this tax support. Correct, Jennifer?
That's correct. Because we was able to, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay, we was able to charter buses for the children to transport them to the Tupelo Buffalo Park. And it was so amazing for them to see these big buses pull up and be able to get on there and experiment riding on a big charter bus. So they was just overwhelmed excited about that. But no, if it hadn't been for the tax credit, that wouldn't have happened.
Thank you for sharing that. And so, Jill, I think this may be a good time to segue into the tax credit. Tell us how that works, and for individuals and businesses in the community who want to know how to support the children in their local community. Tell us more about that.
Sure. So in our original legislation, there is there's a line where it outlines that is the ability for individuals and businesses to donate up to $1 million each. It can, of course, be less than that, but no more than $1 million. That would be a credit to their state taxes. So this is not the IRS, but the Department of Revenue taxes that we have to pay to the state. And so we have people that kind of know exactly about how much they're going to pay in taxes. And they kind of donate all of that money to our collaboratives. It can be one collaborative. We have some people that spread them out to collaboratives. But when it comes to tax time, they can just deduct that from what they owe the Department of Revenue. So it's a real credit. It is not a deduction. So, of course, we can give you a lot more specifics about that, but it's a way that businesses can support early education, and individuals can do that as well. And it helps them out because they know where that money is going, and they can even specialize it and tell the collaborative which partner they want it to go to, if that's the case, or what they would like it to be spent on for the children, but it has to be to the benefit of those 4-year-olds in that collaborative.
So how does one get started? If a listener out there is hearing this, and as we're thinking about the end of 2020, so first of all, have all the tax credits been expended for this year?
No, we are right now, we are right at $700,000. So we have the capability of receiving what we receive from the legislature. So every year, this past year, this year our allocation for the tax credit is $7.2 million. So we have a ways to go for this year. And so we can receive as many tax credits, not the department, but the collaboratives can receive as many tax credits as the legislature gives us for state funding. So, and of course, if people have questions, it's a little bit, technical, but I don't want to overwhelm people with that. But if they want to get started and if they have a collaborative in their community, they just need to reach out to the collaborative lead, whoever that person is, whether it's the school district or, usually it's either the school district, or in Jennifer's case, she is a nonprofit and we're excited about that. And she is the lead for her collaborative, and they can reach out to them to be able to get all the specifics and have a discussion. Because I really like our donors to have discussions with the collaboratives about the vision of what they're doing and how they're doing it and what they want to do with their funding. We even have some collaboratives that write newsletters to their donors and tell them exactly how they've spent their money. And they really like that because it gives them the feeling that not only they didn't just give it to the state, that they are able to directly impact children's lives. So we're really excited about this opportunity to be able to have those out that can make significant impacts immediately. So
that is terrific. And so, Jennifer, as you hear this and you think about, and you've already expressed about additional field trips and opportunities for children that would not normally have happened without individuals investing in the local community. But will you also tell us about how things work in Monroe County as you work across private childcare across Head Start and then within the school district. You really have remarkable ways that that's set up in the community. I'd love to hear the viewers hear about that.
Okay. The Monroe Early Learning Collaborative is composed of the Aberdeen School District, Amory School District, and the Monroe County School District. And with the Monroe County School District, we have Hatley, Hamilton, and Smithville. We have 2 child care centers, Little Blessing, which is in Hamilton, and also Calvert. And we also have the MAP Head Start. So we kind of like county-wide, and we are here we partner together. As far as the materials and supplies that we use in the classroom, we all on the same page. And what I mean about all on the same page, when you go into one classroom, you will see it in the other classroom because we're using the same thing. So we have meetings with our staff. That is, we talk about our lesson plan, what we're gonna do during those particular times. So we just all come together and we make a great team here in Monroe County.
That is just tremendous. And that certainly is something that seems to me could be quite a role model for the state. So Jennifer, I wouldn't be surprised if you get some more calls after this chat about children. I see you nodding your head. Is that something you'd be open to sharing with others?
Yes, we would love to have some more calls. And we also would love to have other taxpayers to contribute to our collaborative. And, we can expand on, we can do more than just one field trip. We can do other things. Like we didn't get a chance to do the field trip this year. So what we're planning to do this month is do a pink out. So with the support of the tax credit, we are going to t-shirts for all of our children and our staff, and we're going to have a day that we are going to salute that. So if we didn't have tax credit dollars, we couldn't do certain things. And also every week we do a STEM activity with our children. We use our tax credit dollars to go to buy the supplies and stuff, but the teachers can have those experiences in the classroom.
That's tremendous. So there's lots of opportunities for people to contribute to tax credits across the state. And there's also a lot of opportunities for more children to be enrolled within the PreK collaboratives, depending upon the legislative funding. I think we should give out a shout out to the legislature this year, despite COVID, that there was a raise the rate. Jill and Jennifer, would you address that and how that has impacted the PreK collaboratives?
So with Raise the Rate, we had been functioning at a rate for children that was not the Southeast average. So with the new Raise the Rate, it provides $2,500 per child per year. And the collaboratives have to meet that $2,500 with another $2,500, either in donated funds, in kind, either real dollar or in some kind of in-kind capacity. So, so essentially they're spending $5,000 per child per year. And so that is the Southeastern rate for high quality early childhood environments for those little guys. So we were very thankful. There was some significant movement in the legislature at the end that made that possible, and we're very grateful.
Well, thank you. And then Jennifer, I can only imagine on the local level, because as we said earlier, that's where the near benchmarks are made. That's where your teaching staff and the children, the parents and community come together so that high quality is certainly promoted. I also wanted to address a little bit more about quality. And I know that at one point, Mississippi did have a quality rating improvement system. It does not have that now. But Jennifer, when it did have that, I believe that your center was a 5-star center. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. And so I'm wondering, in what you said earlier about ways to be able to bring the community together, how did having that quality already to begin with help sort of catapult the coming of together and maintaining that quality?
I think with us being open-minded and having the help to come in to prepare us to become a five-star center. They came in and worked with my staff. They trained my staff. They trained me. And they really showed us what quality was really about. So once we learned, that was a learning process.
Mm-hmm.
So with all that process that was embedded in us, we was set. We said, we're going to do this. We can do this. We actually started out at a 3-star, and each year we got better, better, and better, and we reached that 5-star. So I think would open our doors to be receptive of learning and having someone to come in and work with us, because a lot of child care centers is not willing to have someone to come in. I had that mindset that, I don't know it all. I'm willing to learn. I want to learn. I want our center to be quality. So show me, work with me. And that's what we did. And when you just here in the community, they can say, well, oh, ABC is a 5-star. They have, been through all this different training. And we just held that standard there. And we still have that standard. We have parents that come in and say, oh, we heard good things about this center, and, just wanted to know. So we just expressed to them, we're still here doing what we was doing back then.
Well, thank you. I think that's so important for the public to know. It's like a gold standard, if you will, of quality, and quality is what we are really about for all of our children in Mississippi. So when you take a look at this, and how might, to both Jennifer and Jill, parents, let's say somebody is moving into the community, or maybe they have been just now, maybe they've been keeping their child at home, obviously, particularly during some of the COVID situation, but they're coming in. How do you explain that the PreK collaboratives are different from other child care centers in the community? I mean, you've obviously talked about the support of the legislature on this, and being able to have the ratings that you do. I'm wondering about how that might be different.
In a child care center
Yeah.
that is part of the collaborative.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a few thoughts, and then Jennifer, I'm sure that you have a few particular thoughts about that too on a community level. At the department, we create policy. We don't serve children.
Mm-hmm.
We manage the program and get the funds to the program. So our viewpoint's a little bit different than the community-based level. But one of the things that, since we create policy, our policy drives us meeting the 10 NAER benchmarks. And so part of that is being able to designate what curriculum that we're going to use. And that's a big deal and a big component, because our curriculum has to be child outcome evidence-based. So, using OWL throughout the state right now is a piece that you can't always go to any child care center and be able to hear that they're using OWL. So the collaborative funding helps pay for that, or it does pay for that, if that's what the collaboratives choose to spend their money on. So that's one component that I think is really big. The other one is all of these classrooms have to have lower ratios. They can only have a 10-to-1 ratio, 10 children to 1 teacher. And the other piece of that is those teachers have to have degrees. So the teacher in the classroom has to have a bachelor's degree in early childhood, or an associated degree there, education or something like that, that is specific to early childhood. And their assistant teacher in that classroom has to have an associate's degree in early childhood. So Jennifer, I know you have a few thoughts about that too.
Yes, I want to go back and just mention with the ratio. In a regular child care center, the ratio is 1 to 16 for a 4-year-old. So when you look at 1 to 16 versus 2 to 20, that's a big difference. So having that, capability with a little lower ratio, it helps being there. Also with our curriculum, it helps. It gives you a guide to go through, to work along with the children. Mm-hmm. And we do a lot of hands-on material, hands-on work. And what I mean about that is we don't do worksheets, okay? We have activities that we make and we provide the kids with. Each individual child, when we do small group, they have their own activity that we put in front of them, and we teach them from those small group hands-on activities. Also, our learning centers. When you branch out into the learning centers have learning components in there. So you can go to any of our centers in our classroom and we can teach from our centers. Conversation, having good back and forth feedback with the children. Conversation, they build in vocabulary. Even with our curriculum, we have so many amazing words and concept words that we have, and we instill those words in those children throughout the day and throughout the week. Also, the training that we get from MDE, our coaches, they are there to support us. Whereas when you look in a typical childcare setting, they don't have all those components. But we are thankful that we do have it, and it makes a difference.
Well, thank you each for that. And I think it's underscored by some of the standards, right? There are standards within the Mississippi early childhood that sort of underscores the work that's being done, because then you know what is expected for children and where they need to be by the time they're approaching kindergarten.
Right. So the curriculum has to be aligned to the standards. And then Jennifer was talking about having learning activities within the centers. That's one of the things that we really try to work. Our trainers, we embed the standards in all of the trainings that we offer. And Jennifer, you want to talk about a little bit, because I think this is a really important point about what you made about those learning activities within the centers and how you are able to embed those standards, because gosh, that's so tough for a teacher to be able to teach those standards through play. First of all, it's not a didactic instruction. I'm going to teach you how to do this, and this is how you're going to learn it right here in front of me through this worksheet or something. It's through play. And so, these teachers are amazing and pulling off this feat of being able to teach these particular standards through play and through those centers.
Okay. One example, like in the language center, you can have magnetic letters. You can work with the children as far as identifying letters in their name. And, they don't realize, okay, here, I'm playing in here. I'm talking about these letters with my teacher, but that's the letter in my name. Then you have enough letters in the centers where you can start sequencing the children's name. You also can match upper and lowercase letters in there. And all of that is part of the standards. That's just an example in the language center. When you go to the math center, you can talk about concept. You can just have little teddy bears in there, and you can say, well, okay, I'm thinking about the number 3. Can you show me 3 bears? Count me out 3 bears. You can talk about sorting. You can sort the bears into different colors. You can sort them by size. So all the learning center is going to have some kind of component in there. Even if you go to dramatic play when they playing, you got that telephone in dramatic play. You can learn how to, okay, what's your phone number? Let's see, can you dial my phone number? Dial your phone number. In case of emergency, what do you need to dial? We can dial 911. So, kids are learning, but they playing, but they are learning at the same time. And our teacher rotate those centers. And what I mean about rotate those centers, our teachers are in the centers with our children. We don't just let them go to the center and play by themselves. We are in there. Even with the reading center, we go to the reading center. We go over there and read them a book. Sometimes we do one-on-one. We ask open-ended questions, and just from one center to another, we just work the room. And the children are really learning, and you'd be surprised at their vocabulary that they pick up from that.
Well, Jennifer, this even reinforces even more for me to want to come to Monroe County. And I think all of our listeners out there, we can hear the enthusiasm in your voice, and the enthusiasm of the director certainly has a sort of cascading effect, I would think, with your teachers and with the children most of all, but also their parents. Earlier, you talked about engaging parents and how important that is for the parents to know what's going on in the classroom and for the classroom teachers to know what's going on in the home. You also talked about what the research has mentioned on so many different levels about the serve and return, about sequencing, etc. All of those things that are backbone and foundational pieces to enhance children's learning. So how do you involve the parents?
We send a newsletter home each week.
Right.
So we know exactly what we're working on. And we give them little tidbits, like different ideas, what you can work on as well with your child. We do family engagement activities that we'll send home, like the family tree. We have a unit on family. We talk about family. So they get a chance to engage the parent and the child when they're doing the family tree. We tell the parents to ask questions, and explain to them. Also, throughout the year, we send different activities home for the parent and the child to sit down to. And sometimes we do like show and tell. We might be talking about the letter M. We'll tell the parents, hey, this week we're talking about the letter M. Send something by your child, or go on a scavenging hunt with your child so that they can bring something in the classroom to talk about the letter L. We just ask for them to just go along with us as far as what we are talking about in the classroom. Use those same vocabulary words that we are talking about from OWL. Reinforce those words as well. Go on a scavenging hunt when you just driving around. Like in community, when we talk about community helpers, we talk about these traffic signs, just be engaged with your child. And we just give them this little different tidbits to work with.
Thank you so much. That's wonderful. So, and especially underscored by the pandemic that we're all living through these days. So we know that the COVID-19 has had an impact on many areas of children's lives. How have the PreK collaboratives, both at the local level, Jennifer, and the state level, Jill, adapted to this?
Okay, well, in Monroe County this year, we are down a little bit. We are serving 181 children, where last year I think we served 227. We are slowly coming with enrollment, believe it or not. We are still having some stragglers to come in. And I think the parents really was just trying to wait and see how it was really going to turn out. Sure. So, they are sturdy coming in. We are dealing with it. We've been successful with it. We do have some virtual learners that we have. And what we're doing with our virtual learners, they are getting the same material that we are teaching in the classroom. What we provided package for them. So when the teacher go on Zoom and talk with them, they have the same learning skill in their package as an activity for the parents to work with them on. So we're supporting the parents that way. And the parents are supporting us by bringing the child to the site as far as the assessment, when we do GANs and when we do MCAS, and also when we do assessment every 9 weeks. So the parents has been very, helpful with that. We also have intervention with our virtual children. They come in on Wednesday to some sites, on Friday to some sites, and it's working. Parents is working with us to make this happen.
That's wonderful, Jennifer. Thank you for sharing that. We appreciate it. And so, Jill, what about at the state level? How are you adjusting?
So it's kind of crazy trying to project the next fire that happens. So we did put out several documents, you know, especially for teachers. We put out a few documents for families, and so those are on our website, on the early childhood page of the MDE website, if you're interested. But we're just trying to support, you know, our collaboratives the best we can. Last year we did have a few waivers through the board to come through with rule changes. And so with us being able to, not being able to travel last spring, we couldn't do certain things. We got a waiver for the assessments, different things like that. So, you know, on the policy level, it does look a little bit different. So it's just, you just kind of, you try to project what's coming next, and we try to react to that, and be prepared.
Well, and what we do know from the research in the NEAR report, as it's mentioned a couple of times already, that the work of the PreK collaboratives is just outstanding. And so we also know that around 3,000, you said a little more than 3,000, that represents about 9 or 10% of the PreK collaboratives that are out there. We also know, Jennifer, from what you and Jill have both said, that the tax credits are much less. We've had less coming in this year, but there's certainly room for that between now and the end of December. So what would you like for legislators and policymakers to know about the importance of PreK collaboratives?
It's definitely changing the scope of what high quality looks like in the state of Mississippi. These kids are coming out prepared. They're ready for kindergarten. And if they're ready for kindergarten, you know, then they're set to be able to do great things. And they're able to do well on that 3rd grade assessment. So, you know, it's just laying the foundation. This time is laying the foundation for these little 4-year-olds to be ready for life. I know we talked some about literacy and math, but they're also, these little guys are learning these soft skills that, you know, the workforce is really trying to get better at. And so, or have better staff members. And so the social emotional skills that these kids are learning, the executive functioning skills, and those are pieces of, you know, how to work with your friends, how to cooperate, how to, you know, be able to listen to your teacher and do what she asks you to do. And those are skills that adults need in everyday life. And so I really think that these guys that are coming through this program are being given a huge advantage for later in life and for their school career.
Thank you. And I know the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation and the Mississippi Economic Council, we've talked about this. And on the earlier summit last month with Jennifer, we talked about really the workforce of today and the workforce of tomorrow, because having quality early care and education, how that must ease a parent's mind, knowing as they're going into work that their children are getting what they need in order to be successful. And so it impacts the workforce of today, but then also, as you mentioned, the workforce of tomorrow. So Jennifer, what would you like for legislators and policymakers in your area and across the state know about the PreK Collaborative?
That it works. It really works. I'll give an example. The Amory School District had one classroom, okay? We got funding from the tax credit, so we was able to put in another classroom. So Mr. Biles, he said, all right, we're gonna shoot for a third classroom. He did. He wanted that third classroom. So we made it. This year we kind of like didn't, but we think it because of the pandemic. But then we got Mr. Jernigan at Hatley. Hatley, everybody just flies to Hatley trying to get into the pre-K program. He said, all right, I'm gonna find a way to make another classroom for Hatley. When we started at the beginning of August, we only had maybe like, I think about 8 for that classroom. So we had a total of 28. We started getting children in Hatley as of right now. So we have 2 classrooms in Hatley. We got 17 in one classroom, 16 in another classroom. So the school district, they sees it, they know it works. And we have teachers say, all right, we want these children that come from the collab because we are doing what we supposed to do. We are training them and they are ready to take the road and run when they hit kindergarten.
Oh, that is terrific. And I really can't think of anything much better than a healthy competition among schools and communities to be able to lift all the ships, if you will, with all children getting the quality that they need. That is really tremendous. And so is there anything else that you would like to share that I haven't asked you about today? Any kind of closing comments?
Just please support early pre-K, not just the 4-year-old, we need 3-year-olds. Because when you high quality care, maybe I just go back and say that, support. Mississippi needs to support child care centers so that we can make the best for our children. And we want to keep our children in Mississippi. We want them to be productive. So please support early childhood, support the pre-K collab, and let us have the funding that we need to get these children to the point where they need to be at.
Thank you. The words from someone who is out there every day, day in and day out. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you for what you do. Jill, any closing?
I can't say it better than Jennifer did. I mean, you know, these teachers are doing an amazing job, and through this, through this pandemic, I think that a lot of people have learned how important teachers are and how important schools are and childcare centers are with care. And I mean, you know, they're the people who care for our babies when we walk away and go to work with a mask on, hopefully. And, you know, I just think that, you know, these guys are my heroes, and I say it every day and every time I see them. Those teachers, I can't imagine what they're having to deal with and what they're having to go through. And they're unsung heroes.
Oh, those are wonderful words to end this with. I will just say that the research has also shown us that in Mississippi, over a period of 12 years, Mississippians from a random survey, 2 separate random surveys, have an overwhelming support of state-funded pre-K, 83%, and 95% are supportive of quality rating scales in child care. I think each of you today have certainly reinforced what Mississippians have said through these random surveys over the years. But what is more important, you are putting a face to it. You are lifting up our children. You are giving them a good start and a great trajectory, as we said earlier, the workforce of today and the workforce of tomorrow. We commend you. I would say stay tuned, Jennifer and Jill, hopefully for these phone calls and visits from legislators, from people in your community, from other communities who want to know more about the magic that's going on. Not magic because of the hard work and intentionality of people like Jennifer Calvert and Jill Dent. So thank you for your time today. We very much appreciate it.